The past 2 years have been an interesting period for Xbox gamers, to the point where top-end GPUs like the Vega 64 offer 10 times the compute performance of the base Xbox One, a greater leap than the jump from 7th to 8th gen. Meanwhile, Microsoft has been repositioning Xbox as an all-encompassing gaming brand, not a specific type of console, attempting to blur the lines between Xbox consoles and Windows gaming machines. Add in the rise of cloud streaming solutions, from Google's Stadia to Microsoft's own xCloud, and it's hard to say exactly what Xbox even means today. Nevertheless, in the lead up to the arrival of the 9th gen consoles, late-gen Xbox One titles continue to impress, squeezing remarkable visual fidelity from aging Xbox One hardware. We'll have a look at some of these newer titles in the last of our 3-part series. Sea of Thieves. Rare is something of a legend as far as developers go. GoldenEye 007, their opus on the Nintendo 64, was the premier FPS experience throughout the 5th gen, topped only by Rare's own Perfect Dark 3 years later. Featuring dynamic lighting, detailed textures and high-fidelity models, and even transparencies, it offered the best console visuals available at the time. Rare has been somewhat dormant, however, for the better part of a decade, barring a handful of poorly received titles like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Sea of Thieves, then, has a lot riding on it, marking as it does Rare's comeback to mainstream AAA development. Set primarily in the sea, obviously, a lot of work has been put into Sea of Thieves' ocean and cloud rendering tech. Clouds in-game are remarkably full geometric objects which can vary in size and opacity. The sea itself is another tech highlight, with a dynamic, geometry-based wave simulation system. Unlike many titles, waves here are made up of actual polygons instead of being shader-based, and in-game lighting interacts with the water's surface to a stunning effect. Light propagation volumes are used to incorporate real-time global illumination for excellent indirect light coverage, and crepuscular rays add greatly to the atmosphere, especially at particular times of day. Resolution does take a hit here though, as the base Xbox One runs at a sub-native 900p. Gears 5. Ditching the of war bit, possibly to save space for more cover art, Gears 5 is shaping up to be the swan song of sorts for Xbox One, as focus increasingly shifts over to the next generation Xbox hardware. Gears of War 4 pushed base Xbox One hardware hard, delivering the best visuals we've seen to date on the Unreal 4 engine. Going by the available trailer material, Gears 5 appears to be more iterative than revolutionary. Core asset quality hasn't improved significantly though. This isn't necessarily a bad thing though, as the bar was set very high by Gears of War 4. The most immediately noticeable change is in terms of weather conditions. Winter appears to play a prominent role in Gears 5, and the snow shader has received a significant enhancement relative to Gears of War 4. Snow is now dynamic, it has depth, and it appears to deform around objects. Characters seem to have slightly higher poly counts, though that may be down to slightly different artistic choices as opposed to actual enhancements. Parallax occlusion mapping also makes the cut this time, adding depth to masonry and uneven flooring. While it's a welcome addition, what's more puzzling is why Gears of War 4 omitted the effect. Halo Infinite. We may have had our first real taste of 9th gen gaming a few months ago when the Halo Infinite trailer was launched. The stunning visuals seem just about doable on RX 580 class hardware running in full HD, which is roughly where the Xbox One X lies, but it's difficult to conceive the base Xbox One doing those kinds of visuals at anything approaching a smooth frame rate. Nevertheless, after we saw what 343 did with Halo 4 on the Xbox 360, we're liable to believe they might just pull it off, with the One X and the next Xbox simply scaling things up. The evidence so far points to Halo Infinite appearing on the base Xbox One, considering a statement on 343's blog that said the game will scale across the Xbox family. There are several things that are evident from the demo. For starters, the wide open spaces are strongly suggestive of an open world, or at least large traversable maps. PBR is utilized for material rendering, accurately capturing the essence and texture of rocks and plants. Materials appear so good at times that it's possible that some form of photogrammetry is being used. The technique, responsible for Battlefront 2's eye-popping visuals, scans real-world objects and converts them into textured models. Polygon counts are very high. In a close-up shot of a rhinoceros, for instance, individual wrinkles on the animal's skin appear to be fully modeled. Volumetrics play a major role in the visual makeup of the trailer. Volumetric lighting pairs with film grain and bokeh depth of field blur for a surprisingly cinematic presentation. Volumetric particle effects also contribute to the atmosphere, with animal stampedes raising thick clouds of dust. Unannounced Playground Games title. Is it Fable 4? Well, yeah, it probably is Fable 4. Playground Games, the makers of the Forza series, have been hard at work on an unannounced fantasy RPG. Evidence was thin on the ground for quite a while until Eurogamer got a scoop in January from a trusted confidential source that the mysterious RPG Playground was working on was indeed Fable 4. It's been known for quite some time that Playground was working on some AAA fantasy RPG project, considering that it was openly hiring for this. Nevertheless, Microsoft, who owned Playground, owned plenty of IPs, so it was far from certain that the fantasy game in question was Fable, especially considering the series' checkered recent past. Lionshead, the original owners of the IP, were shuttered after Fable Legends bombed. Or, well, more accurately, it fizzled into nothingness. The ill-fated Fable MMO has been described as a $75 million project no one wanted to work on. The game was apparently so uninteresting that Microsoft canceled it and shuttered Lionshead despite having sunk nearly $100 million into its development. While Legends is something of a black spot in the series, the good news is that Fable 4 will likely stick more closely to the format of the earlier Fable games. We're expecting an entertaining, lighthearted RPG with a heavy emphasis on premium single-player content. There is one good thing about Fable 4 not being announced yet officially. Its launch date is likely so far ahead that it will almost certainly end up appearing on the next Xbox console. Developers and insiders both seem to indicate that the biggest change in the 9th gen will be in terms of world building, depth, and AI, as Ryzen-powered processors will provide an order of magnitude more CPU grunt. In titles like The Witcher 3, we've already seen the kind of experiences possible on current hardware. We're excited about Fable 4 because, as a likely 9th gen RPG, it will almost certainly feature stronger world building and deeper systems than we've ever seen before. Graphics are never the main draw in RPGs, it's the ability to immerse yourself in the environment and the stories that it tells. Fable 4 might not look that much better than current RPGs on the market, but we'd bet good money that it'll be significantly deeper of an experience. And that's it for our 3-part feature on Xbox console exclusives. While Sony has traditionally enjoyed an advantage when it comes to the first and second party titles, it's just not true that Xbox has no good exclusives. From Halo to Quantum Break to Forza, Microsoft's platform has plenty of great exclusives across genres, all of which push the hardware in innovative ways. As the 9th gen draws near, we are excited to see the kind of exclusives future Xbox consoles will play host to. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily. Also, don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon, that way you don't miss out on any of our videos.